Bonjour everyone, welcome to our first masterclass Beyond the Bottle with the amazing Jessica Defino. We will be starting in just a little moment, just waiting for everyone to log in. Do not forget to mute yourself. I will be looking at the chat through the discussion to take any comments and questions you have. We are very excited. Hi, Jessica.
Hi.
Where are you based now?
I'm in New Jersey right now.
Oh, awesome.
Toast, what about you?
I'm in New York right now. I'm traveling for work, but I'm still based in San Francisco normally.
Okay, well, that's exciting. We're so close.
Yeah, New York, it's amazing to be back to a big city.
Such a good time for it too.
Yes, awesome. So hi everyone, welcome. So Jessica, I must say that I think we've never had so many sign up for a class. Fan with you was the headline. Everybody is so excited to hear about your insights about the industry, what you've learned and how you see things moving forward. You're such an incredible expert in the field now that I'm even myself super excited to hear what you have to say.
Thank you. I'm so excited to talk to you. I mean, every time I've interviewed you in the past, you've like opened my mind to more of the magic of the microbiome. So it's exciting.
Oh, thank you. Awesome. So I will just get started by just sharing a few slides. And then if you have, for the participants, if you have any question, I will be looking at the chat during the class. So feel free to to speak your mind, to agree, disagree. It's like it's an open discussion, and we really want to hear also your thought and if you have any burning question about why it's gone. So welcome to Shifting the Beauty Industry Masterclass with you, Jessica, as our very special guest. And the idea is to start really get very open-minded discussion about how we see actually beauty going beyond product, beyond skincare, how it's going and why this is so important to us. Just a quick background why for us this discussion is very important. As a skin scientist, what I've learned more and more, I started by launching a skincare line and collecting like thousands of surveys on our website about understanding what makes our skin sensitive, reactive, because today it's over 70% of women who actually have sensitive or reactive skin, and it's exploding. And if you listen to other experts like James Samblin, Dr. Scott Nicky, everybody is saying the same. So something is really wrong and broken, and it needs to be fixed. And it's not going to be fixed with like just skincare product or skincare product. A lot of the time, actually, skincare or household product can be the issue to your skin issues. And we've been always taught, to use new product to fix an issue. Maybe you should stop using product to solve your issue. And that's what we will be discussing today. But we also strongly believe that beauty is beyond the bottle today, because when we have a skin microbiome damage or a skin barrier that is damaged, usually and actually one of the #1 cause can be mental health. That's what we've learned from our community. So when you're stressed, especially during a pandemic, during an economic crisis, like our skin, unfortunately, is going through a lot. Same if you're someone who menstruates or have been through menopause, hormonal changes have a huge impact too on skin health, climate pollution, especially going through the winters, and also what we eat. So having that holistic view of your skin health is absolutely key to understand what's going on with it. Sorry, I'm just trying to go through very quickly about myself. I'm a PhD in skin science. I've been studying for over a decade how ingredients in your skincare penetrate your skin. That's how I got introduced to the skin barrier when I was in France. And I have myself super sensitive skin. And being raised in France, I was used actually to have very gentle product. But when I moved to the US about 6 years ago, I realized that the US market really pushed you to use all those active, have those heavy regimen, very different from what I was doing in France. And I was really shocked about that. And I felt like it's important when you understand what the skin is about as a scientist to really provide more guidance and education about what our skin is and how you should be more mindful about your skin. And after working at L'Oreal, I work for a biotech company specialized on the skin microbiome. And It was just the beginning of researching that field, and it really, really opened my mind beyond the microbiome, also about the impact of the microbiome on our health, especially as women, and how that research area is really untapped. And that's the mission of the company I've started, to really understand better the microbiome, to provide solution for us, and especially women who are the ones suffering the most from skin issues today. But not so much about me. Jessica, welcome. We are so happy to have you. I discovered you a few years ago on your Instagram, and I was amazed by all the communication you were having about educating about the skin barrier and the microbiome. You describe yourself as a pro skin and anti product. I love that. Recently, you even tweeted that launching a new skincare brand should be illegal. I love that as well. You're an amazing editor for a lot of a very international newspaper, from like a consumer to B2B press. I would love to start by hearing a bit about your background, and most importantly about your skin journey, and what happened, what makes you open your eyes about your own skin.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, my skin journey is very long and winding. I think I've always had sort of very reactive, communicative skin. So I started going to a dermatologist for acne probably around like 14. So I've been on every prescription you could possibly imagine: antibiotics, retinoids, was put on birth control at 15. I did Accutane in college. Eventually, I developed something called dermatitis, and I was put on a topical steroid prescription. And I had all sorts of just devastating side effects to the topical steroids. Induced something called skin atrophy, which is like the thinning of your skin. I went into topical steroid withdrawal because I couldn't use the steroids anymore. And basically what that did was like my skin was like actively peeling off of my face in chunks. I couldn't put products on it. So I had to figure out how I was going to heal my skin without skincare products. And yeah, I started researching a lot of the things that you've pioneered and you've researched, and discovered like, wow, I don't actually need skincare products, and didn't really need them in the first place.
Wow, no, that's very impressive. And I'm curious to understand, like, for you, what was your aha moment when you're saying you realized that actually maybe it would be not with a skincare product that you would solve your skin issue?
There were so many. I think a big one for me was discovering the field of psychodermatology, which is the study of the mind-skin connection. So I started to put some of the studies of psychodermatology into practice in my own life, like stress reduction, meditation, gratitude, affirmations. And I could see physical changes in my skin happening from these sort of mental health practices. And I realized like the connection between the skin and the mind is more powerful than anything you could ever put in a bottle. And that, yeah, really flipped my perspective.
Oh, that's so interesting, because it's exactly like we had a skin quiz on our website, and we gathered over 10,000 data points from people who were just browsing our website. And what we've seen is that the number one reason that people reported for reactive skin is actually mental health.
Yeah.
And we don't talk about it so much at all.
I think people really are starting to grasp the idea that like stress and sort of mental health issues can affect your skin. But what's not really talked about is the idea that that connection can work for your benefit as well. Like when you soothe some of your stress issues and you actively work on your mental health, like you'll see those benefits as well. Like it's not just, oh, I'm stressed and now my skin is breaking out. It's like, oh, I can help reduce my stress and clear my skin. Like it's powerful.
Yeah, totally. What I've read from scientific experts about that is that when you're under stress, you actually produce an hormone called cortisol that has been shown scientifically to cause like more breakout if you're like acne prone, or if you have like eczema or over skin issue, to create more like rashes when that happens. So as you said, like meditating, finding what makes you feel at peace can already help a lot without having to think about a beauty regimen.
Yeah, it's so true.
No, that's great. So that was your aha moment. But So you're talking about mental health, but these past years, I would say, I've noticed that you've been talking more and more about the skin microbiome. That topic can feel really overwhelming. I would love to hear, like, if I've never heard about the microbiome, like how would you very quickly explain that to someone who's very new to the field and want to understand better their skin, and why you think they should care about it, because we've never talked about it before.
Yeah. I like to explain the skin microbiome as being like an ecosystem of 1 trillion microorganisms that live in and on your skin that basically do the work of skincare for you. Like, I like to say that our microorganisms are the original skincare products, because like when that ecosystem is intact, literally like your skin self-cleanses, self-exfoliates, self-moisturizes, keeps your oil levels in check. The microbiome like secretes antioxidants that help protect you from the environment and from the sun. So like if you focus on your microbiome health, you don't really need the extra stuff.
Yeah, that's so true.
Yeah, and then as far as why to care, I always like to highlight that the skin exists for other reasons than aesthetic. Like, it's not there to look a certain way or to look pretty. Like, the skin is like a vital part of full body and full mind health. You know, it's like the first line of defense for your immune system. The microbiome is a huge part of that. So like protecting your microbiome is protecting your overall health. Um, and yeah, I think that's so much more important and powerful than what it looks like.
Yeah, you're totally right, because I feel like with marketing ads, we keep thinking like the skin is here for us, to look good or whatever we look. But actually, as you said, our skin is our body's largest organ, and it's an organ. So it's just like your lungs or your gut. It's here, like it lives, and it's going to react to anything you do to it. And the simple fact, to shower and put hot water on your face, for some people, that can already be dramatic. So that's what I always like to say. You have to think about anything you put on your skin, because anything can have an impact, and it's going to interfere with how your skin lives, and that's extremely important. I love how you say that the microbiome are all those, like tiny factories that produce for you all the active you actually can have naturally on your skin. That's so interesting. So I guess in an ideal world, we would all have like a very rich microbiome with all those essential nutrients for the skin without having to do anything. Have you heard about, like, from what you've been reading and the expert you've been talking to, any like specific microorganism or think about the microbiome that really captivate your attention, that you thought was interesting regarding how it can actually protect us and already do the job?
Yeah, I mean, I think, have you read the book Clean, The New Science of Skin by
Yes.
Jungman? That was like my Bible when it first came out. And I think there were some passages in there that really hit me. He mentioned that it's possible that some microorganisms produce ceramides, and that's like a
Yes.
huge, buzzy, expensive skincare ingredient. And like your body produces it on its own. And, there are microorganisms that eat like feed off of your oils, so they like naturally keep your oil levels in check, or feed off of your dead skin cells, so they like naturally exfoliate your face. These are like the biggest money makers in the industry, and things that do that already live on our body. It's just like my mind was blown.
Yeah, no, and you're totally right. And it's funny you're talking about ceramides, because ceramides are actually the most important lipid for your skin barrier. Your skin barrier before the microbiome is like a brick and mortar wall where you have dead cells that are embedded in a cement matrix that is a big part of it, or ceramide. And what we see is that people who have atopic skin, like eczema, for example, actually they are lacking certain important ceramides. So ceramides are absolutely key for the skin function. And just like you said, what has been shown recently is that we have on top of that barrier all those microorganisms that can produce ceramides for us, not just coming from the skin, but from the microbiome itself. So how wonderful is it that you can have all that, and how it's important to not disrupt your biome, especially when things are going well. I guess when your skin starts feeling unbalanced, that's another issue, because you might be lacking certain microorganism or having like a disbalanced barrier function. But absolutely. And I like that you're mentioning James Sambley. He's also he's a medical doctor, and it's interesting how he turned journalist and how he really speaks his mind also on Twitter and on different media. And
he's one of my favorites.
is really great. So, but you, for example, I'm curious to know, because now you're saying actually we don't really need product because our microbiome should already be doing the job. And you're originally a beauty editor. I guess you had to test a lot of product that you receive from a lot of brands. How did you shift professionally? It must be really tough because
it was interesting. So I didn't work in the beauty industry until after I had my sort of like devastation with steroids. And then I was like, I've learned all this information. Now I want to work in the beauty industry so I can help correct it. So I entered the industry sort of having this less is more stance. The funny thing is that as soon as I was writing for these publications, PR companies started sending me samples of beauty products, and I was getting tons of free beauty products like every day. Like it was a problem. And it was so exciting that it made me forget like, oh, I don't need these. And I just started using all of this stuff again because I just felt like cool and special. And this is like a big, exciting celebrity product and I'm going to use it. And I basically had to learn my lesson all over again because putting that many products on my face really backtracked my skin health progress. So like that was a really powerful motivator for me. It's like I learned the lesson once and I learned the lesson twice, and like never again are you going to fool me. And then just seeing the behind the scenes of how things work in the beauty industry, especially in beauty media, the coverage, the sorts of things that influence what information gets to readers and gets to consumers. Just seeing how it was all really like manufactured and manipulated by PR, marketing, advertisers. I saw how hard it was to get simple truths about the skin out there. And I just like didn't want to be a part of that.
So how were you able to adapt? Because I guess you're still writing a lot about how the industry, needs to change, about what inspires you. So how do you manage to convince, large outlet to still publish you when it's going against what everybody else is doing?
Yeah, I'm still figuring out. It's still really hard. Like for instance, there's one story I've been trying to get placed for almost 2 years now. Like I just did my pitches today because I want this information to get out there. And it's just a simple explainer of how the skin works.
Okay.
It's very simple, very straightforward. Basically says, here's how your skin cleanses, moisturizes, exfoliates. Like it all out. Nobody will touch it.
No way.
Every time a publication accepts one of my pitches that's like a little controversial, I'm still like surprised and I don't know how it happens, but just know like for every article I get out there, there are like 10 that are rejected. So it's still very much a struggle. And I guess that's part of why I started my own newsletter, is so that I can self-publish when I can't get these topics into the mainstream beauty media.
So yes, your newsletter is like, I love how open-minded it is, and how, when you're like upset about something, like how you react to how funny was it, the one on the metaverse with Facebook and all the
oh my gosh, I'm scared.
all those filters, like
yeah.
So your newsletter is called The Unpublishable. For the participants who are listening and who have not signed up to it, how can they access your newsletter and what you wrote in the past if they want to read your articles?
So yeah, the newsletter is called The Unpublishable, and it's through Substack. So the URL is jessicadefino.substack.com. So you can put that in, or it's linked in my Instagram and the link is there. Yeah.
No, that's really fascinating. And I think what you talked about recently with Mark Zuckerberg and doing the Facebook filter that we see in his video is how we get disconnected from what the reality is about our skin today. Even right now, for me on my Zoom, I have like the touch-up option. One day, it was in the morning, I had no makeup. I went to a call and I thought, my skin looks great today. I have no more rosacea. It's not red anymore. And I forgot I had the touch-up screen on. And it's so funny how all those tools are like good and bad in a way, because in a way it's good because, well, now I'm not worried not to have makeup in a call when I have like a business call, and I mean,
Yes.
I have a skincare line, so I need to represent in a way, you know, they expect you to have like good skin. But at the same time, it's also not the reality of what we really look like.
Yeah, and that's why I'm like so passionate about not only like talking about the beauty industry and our skin, but like actively changing beauty culture, like actively changing the systemic forces that make us feel like we have to look a certain way that is not like natural or attainable for anyone. Like we shouldn't have to take these measures to look professional or respectable or presentable. Like it should be enough to just look like yourself. And yeah, that work is like a lot deeper and obviously goes like far beyond the beauty industry.
Yeah, and I talked to a friend of mine actually in New York, a French person who works with a lot of different industry, and she told me a big trend right now, which is quite positive, is called radical self-acceptance.
Ooh,
I
I love
was like, that's
that.
an interesting tagline.
Yeah.
Of course, even Victoria's Secret is using it now in a way, you know, like it becomes a marketing tool too, but I'm like, at the end, if it can help everyone feel better, that's great.
Yeah.
And not having like attainable beauty standard. We have I'm looking at the question. Thanks a lot for reacting. So I put the information about the unpublishable. Kathleen is asking me a question about the microbiome. Does the microbiome exist only on your face or on your whole body? All of the organisms different on different parts of your body? That's such a good question, Caitlin. What I can say as a scientist is that everything I've been reading and listening to from experts on the microbiome is that actually, as Jessica said, the microbiome is like an ecosystem, and each area of your body will have an ecosystem that is special to it. So let's say if I look at the microbiome of my armpit, it's not going to be the same as the one of my face because the humidity is different, the temperature is different, and my skin is also different. So it's going to really influence what type of microorganism you have. When you look at the face, there are certain microorganisms that really define the skin microbiome there. The most common microorganism is called C. acnes. We used to think it was bad. That's how we called it acne, thinking, you know, C. acnes is bad for your skin. It's causing acne. So all those treatments that are like strong antibiotic to eradicate that type of bacteria are actually now a bit obsolete because we realize actually C. acnes is very important to get a balanced skin. And as you age, you tend to lose it. So we realize how actually key it is to keep your skin moisture and have a good longevity. So your microbiome varies, but there are certain species that are really representative of certain area of your face. And Jessica, I would love to understand today for you, what upset you the most about the industry? Now that you had that haha moment, you make that shift. Thankfully, some publications are okay to publish some of your pieces, not all of them. But yeah, what really upsets you and really makes you change? And I see it's beyond even skin health. I see that you're really speaking about a lot of issues the industry is having today.
It's hard to pinpoint one thing. There's so many things about the industry that upset me, but one is that it pushes this idea of health as an aesthetic and conflating what your skin looks like with healthy skin, and selling you all of these products to sort of manipulate the appearance of your skin, which ironically degrade the actual health of your skin. So like this coupling of appearance and health, I think is really damaging to us, to our skin, and damaging psychologically for our mental health because it's just not the truth. And then the other upsetting thing is that so much of this misinformation about the skin and about beauty in general and about, you know, what beauty even is so foundational to the industry that it's really hard to counter, because most people in the industry aren't like trying to lie to you and manipulate you. Like they truly believe that they're telling you the truth. But there's so much misinformation about how the skin actually functions out there that it's just like sort of hard to combat that, because they think they're presenting science. What they're presenting is the science of a product or an ingredient. And what's important is the science of the skin. And those sciences are very different.
I totally agree, you know, because in the past I worked, and actually we have a question about that regarding skin absorption. Someone is asking, actually, does the skin actually absorb product? Yes, so actually your skin is not a sponge. It's not going to like absorb and get everything into your body. Like when you take a bath, not all the water is coming into your skin. It's very hard because, as we say, the skin is a barrier, like a brick and mortar wall. So when it's healthy and functioning well, product like only a tiny fraction are actually penetrating. But it will penetrate more if your skin is damaged from a sunburn, from a peeling, from having like eczema issues, or if you're using ingredients like we found, for example, in some serum or toner, or if you do harsh soap, their product will be more penetrating your skin. When I was working in the lab during my PhD and when I work in the industry, what really was a aha moment for me is that I was told to look at how an active in a product, let's say retinol in a cream, would penetrate the skin because you want this efficacy. But to achieve that and to make the product penetrate, because it's very hard to break that barrier, you have to use those alcohols, glycols that actually remove all those ceramides, open the pore of your skin to get the penetration. So actually that's super irritating. And very often in clinical study, we have irritation issues, so we have to stop. And it's me looking at that on the microscope. I was like, why would I even put that on my skin? I'm like, I just want to use the most gentle product possible because I don't want to manipulate some sort of absorption or efficacy, just like what you're saying. And very often, yes, the skin science is disconnected from how your product is going to be marketed on the market. And I've worked with so many amazing scientists from large and small companies, but it's true, there's often a big disconnection between the R&D team and then people who actually talk about the product or decide about the claim or push people to use the product, unfortunately.
That's like a perfect example because you have these brands telling you this product works because it penetrates your skin barrier. And they're right, it does. But then when you look at it from the science of the skin, your barrier is not supposed to be penetrated. So it's like telling the truth, but they don't know the whole truth. And yeah, it's very confusing to try and cover.
Yeah. And even for us with the skincare line, the idea was to be gentle. And I'm like, actually, I'm anti-absorption. You know? Yeah. I don't want my product to penetrate. Like I focus on the top layer of the skin and your biome. Yeah. I don't think it will be good if it goes deeper into the epidermis. Like, yeah. Because if that's the case, you're not in cosmetic, you're in therapeutic. And it's a whole different world with a whole different type of safety studies to run. Yeah. It's not the cosmetic world anymore. So yes, it's important to really understand well the science behind what you're using. And so with all that in mind, like what upsets you about, you know, how like marketing, the media are like manipulating a bit how we should see our skin, how the science can be disconnected from the product we end up buying. How do you think today the industry could change for the better, you know?
Yeah, I mean, what the industry really needs is to deprioritize growth. Like this idea of more, better, advancement is not helping our skin. It's not helping the planet. Like the metaphor of the ecosystem for the microbiome is so apt because if we prioritize microbiome health, we will automatically prioritize the health of the earth and our ecosystem by producing less. So I would just say fewer products, fewer ingredients overall, deprioritize growth. And then when you do formulate barrier and biome first. Because if your product is supporting the barrier and supporting the biome, it will support skin health. And that aesthetic that we're sort of chasing will naturally come from that eventually.
Oh, I love what you're saying, especially when you mention growth. I mean, being an entrepreneur myself, having a skincare company, it's like I would not say all investor, but a lot of investors if you only look at one metrics, it's your revenue and what your cost of acquisition is. Of course, you can do quick launch and quick win and make those crazy claims or launch a new retinol product, you know, like things you know that will sell. But when you're trying to re-educate a market, it takes time. And it's and we are, yeah, and it's very difficult. Because of that, I started a collective with actually 10 over science-backed female founder called Science of Beauty Collective. And it's very interesting because we all feel the same. We are all founders of indie beauty companies, and we all want to promote more science behind what's happening, but it's very hard to link that to actually an hyper growth like we are used to see and what investor wants to see. And it's a huge challenge. So I'm glad you're pointing that out, because it's not what you want. And when you launch a product, it's not for everyone. And even me, it's breaking my heart, having to sell product to so many influencers and journalists, because I'm like, I don't think they should be necessarily using it if they already have a routine that they like. You have to be careful, and it's not about pushing people to use more and more product. You actually want the opposite when you want their good.
I think that's one of the hardest things to grapple with in terms of how the beauty media looks is that these writers and editors and reporters get sent a ton of product and they're trying it all at the same time. And you're not necessarily getting accurate results when they report on their personal experience. Also, everyone's skin is different. Like the same way some people have like a really strong gut and they can eat anything and they don't feel bad and they don't gain any weight. People have that on their skin too. Like you can have a really resilient barrier and microbiome, and you can be using all of these products that would maybe harm the average reader, but your skin is fine because like genetically, you have that resilience. So I think, personally reporting on the effects of a product for like an individual has been like overall very harmful to the industry.
Oh, yeah, no, you're so right. I see we have a lot of questions. I will take them soon. It's about microbiome, about skin absorption again. So what would be your advice? Like, let's say if you meet the CEO of a very large corporation, a multinational, what would you tell that person?
Oh man, I would say if there's a way to, deprioritize growth and restructure your products, skin science first rather than ingredient science first, I think that would be a huge shift that would change things for a lot of people. Just there's so much science to mind there. Like the vastness of our being is like there are always going to be advancements and new learnings that we're uncovering. Like just your skin microbiome alone has like 10 times the amount of stars there are in the Milky Way galaxy. Like we'll never learn all of that information. It's like there's so much potential there, and I just don't see why companies wouldn't want to focus on that rather than like what this random ingredient could possibly do to your skin maybe.
Yeah, I think it's about focusing on the long-term impact rather than like on the short quick wins that are very detrimental to both our skin, but also I think the economy, because you get those high and then very low, and it's hard to rebound after that. Someone is asking about if you can talk more about what is skin science versus ingredient science. And I saw you had like a tweet against cosmetic chemists too that I thought, I don't totally agree with you, but I think it's very interesting to see that point of view.
Okay, so I'll go into both of those. So skin science versus ingredient science, I usually explain it in a metaphor of like thinking of fossil fuels and fracking. So like there's a science to fracking. Science will show us where to frack, the best ways to frack, the most effective methods, the best time to frack, and you extract that oil from the earth. But if you look at the science of earth first, we should not be fracking and extracting fossil fuels. It's killing our climate. So that's kind of the difference of ingredient and skin. Ingredients will do a lot of things to your skin aesthetically, and you can have science to show that. But if you start with the science of skin, you can say, my skin doesn't actually need that or want it at all. And it's completely counter to skin health. And then the other thing that you were talking about in the tweet is I mentioned like cosmetic chemists, in my opinion, are not necessarily going to be the best sources for information about this and about how certain cosmetic chemicals affect your skin health over time. Yeah. And going to them as your primary source is a little bit like going to the CEO of ExxonMobil as your primary source on planetary health.
No, I think that's a good point. Because I'm a skin scientist by training, and I started learning about ingredients when I had to assess their effect on the skin. And I've been working with a lot of cosmetic chemists that are extremely smart and knowledgeable. But it's true, when you have a pure chemical engineering background, or that you learn everything about ingredients, you don't necessarily understand the biology of the skin. It's a very different skill set, even if when you're not in science, it can sound very similar and confusing. The best combination I've seen is like when myself as a skin scientist, I work with a cosmetic chemist, it's great because we can work together and like thinking, because I have no idea how I can mix two ingredients together. You know, I can experiment, but I don't understand the chemistry of those bonding that can happen. But I can see what could be the effect on the skin. So it's very interesting. I think it needs to be a mix of both, and very often company only go to like manufacturer with cosmetic chemists who don't necessarily have that skin science expertise. That is just very different. Large corporations do, but they use it in a different way.
And the other thing to keep in mind is like this research on the microbiome is so new comparatively to like the science that a lot of, established conglomerates, beauty conglomerates are working with. So it's just like, it's hard to keep up with it all too. And we know more every day about the microbiome that sort of phases out this older science that we're working with.
Yeah, totally. We have a lot of comments from, okay, I'm still going through. Okay, we have a lot of questions about ingredients, the microbiome, what is harsh or not, if you've damaged your face with, what can you do, to restore your biome? And I had a question for you about that actually. I'm just going through. Yeah, thanks, Emily. Glad it resonates with you, the growth issue we are going through as company. Some people also talk about how oils can be good for the skin. So quickly, what I would say regarding the impact of ingredient on your biome is really about, just like you said, Jessica, going about the less is more, but the real less is more. Not just buying a brand that say, oh, it's minimal. No, actually look at the ingredients, make sure it doesn't have, what them recommends is usually 5 to 10 ingredients maximum. Try to skip products that have like fragrances or essential oils, even if it's nice. The issue is that it can be antibacterial, and the cleaning has a huge impact on your skin. So try to, if you're not using any sunscreen or makeup, maybe you don't even need to clean, or just using like very gentle cleaning, whether it's like an oil cleanser, a micellar water, like something very gentle that is not going to strip your oils and your microbiome. That would be my recommendation. Jessica, I don't know what would be your recommendation to go if you want to, especially for people who had really harsh treatment to their skin, or trying to do this some sort of reset and taking more care of their microbiome.
Sure. The best thing that you can do for your skin is actually get to know your skin. Like most people start skincare routines really young. Like for instance, I'm sure the first products that I used were like the Neutrogena acne-free, oil-free acne wash and like St. Ives apricot scrub. And that starts you on a cycle for your whole life. And you can actually, when you don't step out of that skincare cycle, you don't actually know how your skin behaves on its own without anything. So the thing that I always recommend is, I call it de-stressing your skin and taking like a week, if you can, a full skin cycle, which is 28 days, a month, of no products whatsoever. And there are some like bumps in the road as you transition, but eventually you will get an understanding of what your skin does on its own and where it needs help. Like maybe you'll realize, oh, I don't actually need to exfoliate as much as I'm exfoliating. My skin is taking care of that for me, but I'm still a little dry. So maybe I do need to apply like an oil or a moisturizer. But yeah, I think that the only starting point is to know what your skin individually does, how it behaves and what it needs. And then you can go from there. And it might need nothing.
Exactly. It's what I tell, some people are like, oh, Elsa, I absolutely want to try your product. And I'm like, well, what are you using today? They say, well, nothing. I'm like, are you happy about your skin? They tell me, yes. I'm like, well, you don't need anything, besides the sunscreen maybe, but otherwise, you're good. Why would you start adding product if you feel good about your skin and if nothing is bothering you?
The other thing to keep in mind is like when people try new products, the reactions that your skin your skin is having might not be to the new product, but rather a withdrawal from the old product. If the old product was keeping your skin in a certain cycle of cleansing, washing, exfoliating, and you take that away, your skin will rebound from that. And so like a bad reaction is not necessarily to the new product, but to just having your skin adjust from the old product. So that's why I always recommend just like nothing for as long as you can manage.
Yeah, and that's interesting you're saying that, because I also really believe in what we call like those skin reset. And the Dr. Skopnicki, she's an amazing dermatologist in Canada. She wrote a book called Beyond Soap with the same mindset as clean. And she talked about the destructive cycle, exactly like you said. It's about starting by using soap, like that acne wash soap that we start using as teenager that dry your skin. So then what happens is that you need to add a moisturizer, but maybe your skin is actually reacting to those products. So then you're adding on more product to fix that. And it's like the impossible circle that is really hard to break. Yeah. Thanks, Carrie, for sharing the name. And it's so interesting you're sharing that insight. And we actually have a remark also from Gopi Nathan, who's hi, Gopi is a skin scientist. Actually, we've met at a conference a long time ago. Asking about how is the microbiome resilient and how it's adapting to many cosmetic products that were applied. So that was, as a scientist, that was what I was very interested about, and still very little understanding of that, especially for women's health, that are the one using the most product. And Jessica, you participated in a pilot we did at the company. What I wanted to see is that what is the science behind the less is more, especially from our microbiome. So what happened if for a few days I completely stop using product, or I use only like very minimal product that are microbiome friendly? What would my microbiome look like before and after? And for that, our volunteers, what they did, they take a swab and they swab their face before and after, and we analyze their microbiome. And we are right now, actually, we've conducted the pilot on many more participants this summer. We are looking at the data, and it's fascinating, because what we are seeing actually is that especially 90% of people were persons who identify as women. We've seen that the microbiome in postmenopausal women versus premenopausal is totally different. You actually get more diversity as you age, but you also lose some good bacteria, unfortunately, and the skin gets drier. This is due to the hormonal change, where you get less sebum production that is normally like food for your bacteria. So it's actually impacting. And we are starting to get science that really show that. And just like you said, before getting to try a new product, start first really by understanding, what does my skin need? And us as a company that is very driven into education about that and guidance, we thought, oh, what if, we could help the 70% of women who have sensitive skin, just like myself, with like a simple swab to discover all about the bacteria and fungi that live on your skin, your microbiome, and to get also recommendation based on your skin profile to understand what type of ingredients you would need, but really emphasizing the research part. I like to describe it as a diet, because what I've noticed during masterclass is that, as you say, the better is to go with nothing. But a lot of people still have issues, like especially pigmentation, for example, is a big one I've seen, and it's hard to fix it. So it's like, okay, maybe just like with food, 80% of the time you're trying to be very careful about, what you eat, and maybe 20% of the time you will get that, that cookie or things that you love eating that are not the best for you, but it makes you feel good. And maybe it's the same with your skincare. Try to be as mindful as you can, but time to time, yes, you will need maybe to use an active or two, but in a very mindful way, and not all the time in a very harsh way. Yeah. That's what the test is about that we launch on the microbiome, and it goes exactly with your philosophy about what you're saying. First, understand your skin before you apply, you do anything to it.
Yeah, no, the test was so cool. I was so happy to like be a part of that, because I think like that's the kind of transformative product the industry needs. And like I put in my newsletter the other day, like doing that test will do more for your skin than buying like any other skincare product, because it's equipping you with like the knowledge, the self-knowledge that you need to really focus on your own individual health.
No, thanks for sharing that. And I was actually very surprised myself because we used that test for our research, and I didn't realize that actually maybe the public was ready to buy a test like that to understand their bacteria. I thought it was very niche for people like you who've been what I call skin intellectual, really obsessed about their skin and reconnecting to it. But it seems that I think it's starting to shift and people are starting to take a step back. Even I feel like K-beauty is becoming more minimal than what it was recently. So there is really like a new conscience about what we should be doing with our skin.
Yeah.
So for people who want to get more education around understanding the skin, with an education that is not, overwhelming, if you're not trained as a skin scientist yourself, are there any like company or key opinion leader that you like to follow or that you would recommend to read? You mentioned Clean
Yeah.
from Jane Samblin. Are there over like books or newsletter like?
Yeah, there's
That
so many books. I mean, Clean is a great one. Beyond Soap is a great one. There's a book, I can't recall the author right now, called The Remarkable Life of Skin. That is incredible. There's another book called The Body's Edge, all about how the skin functions. That is amazing. And then obviously I love the information you share because, like I said, it's barrier and biome first. There are a couple other skincare brands that are very microbiome first. Symbiome is one,
Yes.
Biome is another, and I think that trifecta of you, Symbiome, and For the Biome are sharing like really, really valuable information about how the skin actually functions, what the skin actually needs. And then the next step is like what kind of products to use when your skin does need something, because that's sort of what we're figuring out here. And yeah, so I would say those are my go-tos.
Totally. And we have a question regarding, I think, sunscreen. Somebody asked how to find like a minimal sunscreen. And we had a separate discussion, Jessica, regarding sunscreen and the issue regarding sun protection. What I've researched is that unfortunately, a lot of people who use sunscreen have skin cancer. And that's because you think you have a good protection. So you go to sunbath in the sun, you go to sun beach without reapplying sunscreen. So it's hard to find sunscreen that really do the job. What's important is to reapply very often. I found some personally, I really like, for example, the 11th sunscreen from Venus Williams. What's interesting is that it doesn't have many ingredients. It's pretty nice. A few of clean beauty brands, even Carigran and other brands like that, carry very minimal ingredient with zinc oxide, which is interesting. I don't know if you have a favorite sunscreen or if you use any sunscreen.
Yeah, the Carigran one is my favorite.
Ah, cool.
Because it feels like an oil. Like I hate the feeling of putting on a sunscreen and your skin doesn't feel like skin anymore. So this one really like blends in and lets me just feel like I have my skin.
Yeah. And actually, we have a question from Pao. She loves your skin. Are
Oh,
you using any product on your skin?
thank you. I don't really use many products. Full disclosure, I do have a little bit of concealer on today because I am just as, stifled by beauty standards as the rest of us. But in terms of skincare, I will cleanse with pure Manuka honey at night most nights. I like to sleep with nothing on my skin at all. So I don't really do like a nighttime skincare routine. If my skin is feeling very dry or depleted, which it does because I was on Accutane for a long time and that really impacted my sebaceous gland function, I will use pure jojoba oil most of the time. I love jojoba because it's biomimetic, so it really mimics like what your skin's natural sebum does. And those are kind of my two go-to.
Oh, I'm exactly the same as you. I don't have any routine, especially in the evening. Unless my skin is dry, I put on some moisturizing oil, but otherwise I like to sleep with nothing on my face. Yeah. And even now that I'm starting getting wrinkle, as we age, I don't want to change that. I'm being fine. Yeah, that's great advice. I love that.
Yeah. Asked if it cleans off sunscreen. So if I have sunscreen or makeup on, I will do like a first cleanse with just oil. Jojoba oil is usually my go-to, and then I'll go in with the Manuka honey. And the sunscreen was Carigran, Karigran.
Yeah, those are, and there is another called AKT Sunbalm that is interesting. It has only like 5 ingredients. Yeah. Oh, one question: how do you clean with oil?
I just apply the oil to my dry skin and sort of massage it in, and then I will sort of wipe away the excess with like a muslin cloth or a cotton cloth, and then I'll splash with water.
Yeah, I do the same as well with our oil cleanser, or with like when I travel and I don't have it like a pure oil. It's a great way. You don't need something. You don't need any harsh soap. And we had question actually about, is makeup impacting the microbiome? What I would recommend from what I've read is to apply the same rule as for sensitive skin, because often it's the same as for taking care of your microbiome. Try to use more powder-based makeup when you can, like a powder foundation instead of like liquidish, to not like clog your skin, and it's easier to remove. And same for like if you use mascara, to use not waterproof product, but product that can be removed with like a simple oil or a gentle oil cleanser, where you don't have to use like 3 different type of cleanser to get rid of your makeup. I think that's the best way to really see, to minimize the impact. Okay, one question from Daniel. What makeup do you use, Jessica?
Oh gosh, okay. I don't use much. If I'm doing like if I need like a tint or something, I mix RMS Beauty Luminizer with a little bit of the Beauty Counter tinted moisturizer, and I'll use that. And then I've been using lately, Bobbi Brown has a new like clean makeup line called Jones Road, and there's like a,
Oh,
yeah, it's pretty good. There's a like a big thing that's like a lip, cheek, and eye tint. So that's pretty much all I use. And if I need concealer, well, not need, if I want concealer, I use Kosas concealer.
oh,
Kosas, yeah.
oh, nice try. I have a question from Suzanne regarding the test, the microbiome test. She said, but doesn't a microbiome test just give you a snapshot of your skin microbiome at the moment? Could it be different the next day? Suzanne, that's a really good question. And actually, that's why we run so many pilots, because it would make no sense to like analyze your skin one day and 1 hour later, your data would be completely different. Actually, what we've seen with the minimalism study over a week is that your microbiome is pretty resilient. It won't, in what we've seen, it won't shift overnight, but I think it does shift through like life changes. It would be interesting to do like skin microbiome tests, for example, every month or every quarter, to see how it impacts. And I think when you've been like really shifting a routine to something more minimal, or if you've had like a therapeutic treatment that you've stopped, to see how it's evolving, but I don't think it's overnight that it's shifting. We also see that the microbiome, for example, when we did it on the cheek and after on the forehead, was quite similar on the same person. But as I was saying, what we've seen is that, for example, as you go through life and you're past menopause, that's when we've seen real changes on your microbiome. So not thinking only about what interact directly with your skin, but what also more like holistic and like your inner self, like hormone changes, stress. I think that will have a microbiome, an impact on the microbiome, and that's what we are trying to research, and we will communicate more about that when we'll have relevant data to show about that. Christine is saying zinc oxide should be avoided in sunscreen. It's very antibacterial. Christine, I don't know if it's Christine Neumann from My Microbiome. If that's you, what would you recommend? Because in terms of like sensitive skin, it's what zinc oxide is recommended, and even for like a more clean beauty product. And it's very hard to find very gentle sunscreen for the microbiome. What I recommend is to find a zinc oxide sunscreen with like very gentle product ingredients, in the product. That would be my recommendation. So that's great. And so if I'm a beauty junkie and I've loved trying product, but I realize my skin is messed up, like, but I'm kind of scared too to stop using everything and to get those, breakout, or having my skin that reacts weirdly. How would you recommend from your experience to really start a journey towards something like more minimal and mindful?
Yeah, I mean, I would recommend doing the skin de-stressing, obviously, for as long as you can muster. I would also recommend really diving into the research on um, how the skin is connected to the gut and how the skin is connected to the brain, and how changes in your lifestyle and your diet and your mental health can actually impact physical change on your skin. Because the skin, whenever the skin is reacting, it's communicating with us. It's telling us that there is something out of balance, whether internally or externally in our environment. And skincare products are not the only way to address those things. They can be very effectively addressed without ever putting a product on your skin at all. And that's like, I mean, there's too much to even get into there. But one thing I will note, because when I talk about diet for the skin, I hate the implications of restriction, like that you have to take things away or stop eating certain things. Skin health through diet is really about adding the key nutrients that your skin needs to fuel its inherent functions. Like for instance, like magnesium is a mineral that's like very like the skin needs it to create hyaluronic acid and create all of these compounds. So when I'm talking about like diet for skin health, it's more about like adding the necessary nutrients to your diet rather than restricting. And then a lot of these like lifestyle and mental health practices that help your skin help you, you know, mind, body, and soul too. So there's like a lot more benefit than, you know, buying a new cleanser or moisturizer or something.
No, I love that you're saying that, because actually I believe exactly in the same. And in this masterclass series, we are doing on Thursday, actually tomorrow, a facial yoga class and mindfulness class with Idalina Abdovera. She's an amazing mindfulness teacher, and she's going to teach all the tools to relax without necessarily having to use any product.
Yeah. I love that. Yeah. I mean, this series that you're putting on is just so incredible. Like, I think if it wants to like divest from skincare and start finding other ways to support their skin, like just go to the classes every week that you're putting on. Like, I mean, every day of the week.
Thank you. Yeah, and it's completely free. All you have to do is to sign up through the link. You can scan the QR code to see the other class that will be coming up. So as you said, we have one class about facial yoga and mindfulness tomorrow. And we have one with Jolene Hart. She's a specialist in food ingredients to help your skin. We had some question about that. She's a best-selling author, and it's interesting because she really investigated which ingredients you should be eating, and not from supplements, actually really from real raw food at no cost that you can incorporate. And she will be sharing some recipe to do at home very easily. We had a lot of questions about the microbiome. We have an amazing skin microbiologist with us. Her name is Dr. Grace Park. She's based in Korea, and she will be leading a masterclass with me on the skin microbiome to explain everything about it and answer all the questions you have about the skin microbiome in general and how to keep your biome protected. And I will be closing the series with a class on how to build a minimal skincare, ideally from using nothing to just a few products. But the goal of this class is really to teach you quickly what is the skin as an organ. We'll do like some educational content about that, and also how to read a beauty product, how to see what less is more truly is when you want to buy a new product, how to read ingredients, understand them, and what you should be incorporating or not into your routine. And for those who are interested in sorry, that's not what I wanted in the test. Basically, the way we've just launched a skin microbiome test, and as you said, Jessica, we realized as a company we could be launching more skincare products, but I realized it was time to actually do the opposite and push people to understand better their skin before using anything, to really reconnect with their skin and understand how the skin is an organ, and why also your skin might be sensitive. So you simply order your test, or you can shop it at Credo Beauty. You collect your sample on your forehead, you mail it back, and you get now your digital report with all your bacteria and your skincare recommendation for like potential ingredients that we know that are microbiome friendly, that you could be using in your routine, and also some food recommendation to help you really beyond your skincare routine. I'll be happy to answer any question about that if you have. But Jessica, thank you so much for joining us. That was so like eye-opening. It's what I've read from so many attendees, like how you open their eyes, especially with your metaphor, I think, of the cosmetic chemist and the oil industry.
Thank you so much for having me. I always love talking to you.
Thank you. No, thanks a lot. And also, if you're interested to try the skin microbiome test, oh, sorry, that's going the wrong way. We are offering exceptionally 25% off the test with the code MERCY25 on our website. If you're interested to participate and help us with our research on the website drij.com. But thanks again, Jessica, for joining. And we really look forward to see everyone at the next series. And do not forget to sign up to Jessica newsletter. It's like, it's fascinating to read it. Like it's so refreshing, you know. It's so different from what we are used to. So on the Substack, Jessica Defino, the Unpublishable. I love following you on Twitter. Your tweets are so funny. And of course on Instagram, the way I found you the first time.
Oh, thank you so much. I loved it. I'll talk to you soon.
Talk to you soon, Jessica. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.